Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jamie Pluff, Greg Dumont here, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr., Martin Charlo,
President in Chambers.
Len Tootie, Lanice Trahan.
Tom, will you give us a prayer this morning?
What happened?
I want to thank you for this day. I thank you for the glorious rain that we're having, the moisture that we need for our summer, for our streams, for our communities. We also give thanks for all those folks that put themselves in harm's way for us, our military, our law enforcement. Give thanks for all those that care for our people, our doctors, our nurses, our teachers. And we give thanks for the food that we have before us every day. We also want to pray for our meeting today, that we have good discussions and we do the great things for our people. We do all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Tom. We have minutes from the May 28th.
Chair,
Go ahead.
on the last page, page 13, Abby, can we put for the date October 12th, please? And then maybe just take off the end part about being introduced. I don't want that to be the open invitation. Thank you.
Motion by Martin to approve the May 28th minutes with additions. Second by Carol. All in favor? We're unanimous. We have an agenda for today. Any additions to the agenda? No walk-ins? Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I could do a quick trip report, even though I discussed it a little bit yesterday, but just for the record.
Sounds good. Martin? Open. Plan. Name Doug. Motion by Martin to approve the agenda, second by Carol with additions. All in favor? We are unanimous. I guess we can go to your trip report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly, report on 2 meetings last week that I attended. The first one was Wednesday in Helena, sponsored by Montana Fish, Life and Parks. It was all the Yellowstone area bison hunt, management agencies, the tribes primarily in the state of Montana. Well attended. Reviewed any issues from the last season, what the hunt harvest was, forecast for next year as far as the number of animals. Very little harvest occurred as far as compared to other years. It was I think we had third largest harvest, in the Nez Perce tribe in the state. They are forecasting a large population of over 6,000 animals for next season, so there'll be that opportunity for our hunters to go over and maybe be successful. There also might be a transfer program again for next year. We did get a few animals in the transfer program, when they also had set up a mobile slaughterhouse right at the Stevens Creek trapping out of Gardner inside the park, which was a good issue that will require follow-up from our tribes and other tribes for this next upcoming season. They also announced that they're reopening their management inside the park. Their environmentalist impact study is going to be reopened for another decision. They were sued by the state of Montana over the last operating plan, and they've now vetted the federal notice opportunity for us to be a cooperating agency to help redevelop a different plan. The second meeting I attended was in Emigrant, Montana, sponsored by the Part of the Rockies Initiative, which is a organization that sponsors and supports land trusts throughout the Rocky Mountain region in the United States and in British Columbia and Alberta. And the goal of my presentation there and the folks that attended was the result of a workshop that we did with Part of the Rockies on trying to develop a toolkit that would allow conservation easements on private land, consideration of tribal member access to gather or access private property, and codify that in a formal way. Example would be us looking for more lands that would have Bitterroot on it, and if there was a willing private landowner out there, not just a gentleman's agreement to do it every year, but maybe codify that in a form. So that was the pursuit. It was about 75 folks there with over 30 land trusts represented, and myself and Buzz Campbell from the Blackfeet Nation, who's retired now, along with some of the attorneys that worked on it. Our attorneys weren't there, but they worked on the toolkit. So it was well received. We presented all morning. I left in early afternoon, but that was, I thought it was well worth it. Hopefully it'll turn out to be something. There was a lot of folks there that are part of the givers, a lot of very wealthy representatives there. It was good to communicate with those folks. And as I mentioned yesterday to Tony, there's the Arthur Blank Foundation and the Kadia Foundation will be sponsoring a trip with the Montana Givers Tour this summer in August, and they'll be traveling up the Gold Creek drainage to Prim Meadows to talk about that land transfer to us. That's my report. If there's any questions, I would take questions, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
Carol?
Remember how many acres was the Prim Meadows area?
Well, it could be substantial, but the primary homestead there is pretty small. I think you're talking about less than 100 acres. Might be, where the homestead is, where the big yellow pine are. That's probably about 20 acres right there. But the entire landscape that the Nature Conservancy acquired is quite large. That was in the 30,000 acre range, and then it's intermixed with that BLM land. So we have that cooperative agreement with BLM to do off-reservation work. And the Nature Conservancy had already gifted us the bird pinking meadows up by Len's house up on the West Shore. So we've set the footprint for them to give back more land to us, and the Nature Conservancy is a willing partner. So I think it's in our best interest to jump on that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, when Nature Conservancy was in their early stages of planning what to do with the Prairie Meadow property, and we're starting to reach out to the tribes, somebody on their side of the table got a little wordy with some of the other folks in the Missoula area, and it created a significant backlash. Has that dissipated any since then, over the last 2 years?
The pullback was all about bison, and it was extracted out of our council minutes by the Department of Livestock at the state of Montana. And the current administration in Washington, D.C. has empowered state governors to have full veto power of any major transaction by the federal government within their state. And when that happened, then the governor of Montana had veto power over any land transactions that the federal government might be doing or considering in their state, and the governor vetoed it.
But Nature Conservancy is not federal, is it?
No, but part of that bigger transaction was to allow us to manage the BLM lands there, and they were worried that we were going to reintroduce wild buffalo in the Gold Creek drainage of that area, and they didn't want that. And so that's really the hysteria that was ridiculous. There's been no plan for doing that, but they were putting pressure on BLM, and they were putting pressure on the Nature Conservancy, even though they didn't have any. Just as you mentioned, they really have no, other than they're a major landowner. They cooperate on stuff. It's ridiculous. Has that gone away? No, it hasn't. The governor's office hasn't changed their mind.
Didn't have anything except authority.
Yeah.
In the conservation easements, the plan is to go to private landholders and ask them for a conservation easement, basically to protect cultural resources and give us access.
It could be that. It could be that. What the goal would be is to just say that an example here would be pictographs on Flathead Lake. They're all on private land, and so they're all pictographs that were and for various reasons are there by our people. And so it might be that we identify something like that, and a land trust says, "Hey, we'll work on that for you, and maybe we can get basically a pedestrian right away to go to the pictographs." It could be like, different sites like a medicine tree, or, back in the day, it was just typically we buy it, where it's Kootenai Falls or wherever it might be. But what they would do is as they work with private landowners, they would just mention it to them. If they kind of gauge the landowner, if it's a new person to the area, it tends to be more welcoming. Would you consider, because a lot of times these private landowners, they'll preserve their land, but they won't allow you public access. And if there's public access, then we're already included. But if there is no access, then they might consider, would you consider maybe just, doing some restoration of the indigenous people to the landscape for Camas or whatever it might be, or maybe there's something there that's of historic nature, that we, a lot of this may be a lot of things that are out there on the landscape we want to keep secret and may not even share with the landowner. But what they'll try to do is maybe ask for a cultural survey. If it's a willing partner, we can identify what's there, share what we wanted with the landowner, and then try to expand that access. It's a delicate situation. Sometimes it's better not to even let anybody know what's there. But obviously there's people that own property that know they have sites on their property. They know they have ancient, use sites. They have, whatever it might be, and they might be willing to put that into the future after, that would stay with the land, that we always have access to that site. That's where you codify the conservation easement. We can also just do gentlemen's agreements. We do have signs out there, interpretive signs around particularly the Clark Fork region, and with counties and city governments where we're doing a lot of interpretive signage. And we don't do that by any formal agreement. That's just, gentleman's handshake, and we do these interpretive signs and place them. Got a lot of them in the Missoula area. a lot of them around Phillipsburg and some on private property. And that's also a tool that's in the toolkit.
I was just thinking about a couple sites over in Camas Prairie where there's really good Bitterroot.
Yeah.
And how touchy it would be to talk to those ranchers and ask them, well, will you keep your cows off these? So we can serve our Bitterroot and let us have access. And then there is behind on the hill, right behind Hot Springs, there's a church quarry. That would be an interesting one. So, interesting.
Well, yeah, Mr. Chair, it could be that we develop those kind of conservation easements just for that, you know, and buy that development or that use of that activity that's conflicting and codify it in that kind of an easement. So yeah, there's cultural easements out there specifically, but this was like going after the general conservation easements, whatever it might be, and trying to put in maybe an access parameter. Thank you.
Martin, you had something for open?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Attended the Incusum graduation celebration powwow in Arlee on Saturday, I guess it was. It's always a good recognition of the graduates. I think they had 2 middle schoolers moving into high school and then 2 preschoolers. And so they have a really good staff there. I want to commend all the teachers and everyone that worked very hard there this year. And congratulations all the students for making it through another year.
Thank you, Martin. I do have one for open myself, and I actually went to fire control last night, and we met with the Lake County Fire Association, at least the representative from Ronan, Chris, and the one from Charlo, Joel, and so they're hoping that they can move forward with finding some way to cooperate with the tribe with respect to providing service to trust properties. It all comes back to the James Raymond letter or a memo way back when, and so that it was interesting. Last night they were presenting sort of fee schedules on if they actually provide service to tribal properties. They were trying to just think about all the possibilities of having some way of getting payment for that. And so I wanted to make sure council was aware that they're certainly talking about that. And McKenna was there, and they're going to get information to her about the kinds of things they're thinking about, which then she'll share with us to actually have a discussion about when volunteer fire departments service trust and tribal properties, what kind of remuneration they can expect. So that's going to be a bigger discussion. One thought I had was right now they do it without remuneration. And if there's a fee schedule set up, will there all of a sudden be complaints about fees? So anyway, interesting discussion, and Joel and Chris, very, very nice fellows to work with. And the thing that they've always said, that no matter what, even with James Raymond's fun little memo, the volunteer departments, they will respond always, no matter what. So that's what they assure us. Martin.
Yeah, Carol and I went to I guess it was more of a regional meeting, all the volunteer fire departments, and that had was supposed to have every fire department in this area. I think the only one that wasn't there was Sleep, and I don't know why they weren't, but yeah, that was basically the message. They said that they didn't care about the memo. A lot of them didn't even know about it. When they read it, they just kind of discarded it. So yeah, there's definitely, especially with Lake County, I feel like the boots on the ground work really well together. and we just need to stay out of their way. And the fee schedule, I think, probably arises from when volunteer fire departments are providing services to fires. I remember in RLE that RLE Fire Department was up at the Jocko, and that's part of how they fund themselves. So,
Well, they are already paid, when they go on wildfire. That's already taken care of. It's the structure stuff that they're looking at, and I guess the fact is they have needs, and they're always under or lacking in resources, I guess, what I'm looking at. So they're hoping that somehow the tribe can maybe provide more resources.
and in discussion with them, or one of the other volunteers, I think I brought this up in council, was that, even if we could provide, because Carol's talking about doing the gala, right? Let's raise, what are we gonna raise? Let's say 20 grand, and you divide that up amongst all the fire departments, and it's $500-600. That's enough to buy some gear for them, some, much needed upgrades, things like that. And they're like, why couldn't you guys just, provide 20,000 and split it up, or, whatever that number is. Instead of doing a scramble and spending all this time and effort and energy, sometimes it's easier just to write a check. And so that was kind of, one of the suggestions that was given out. They do a lot of their own fundraising, and, even that's a lot of work because they're all volunteers. So, well, not all, they get a little bit of a stipend. Yeah, but what little stipend they do get doesn't ever pencil out, I'm sure.
Well, what Joe was presenting last night was actually hourly costs for different equipment that would show up on site. So much for a control rig, so much for a fire engine of certain size, so much for a ladder truck by the hour. So that could be a little strange. Anyway, we'll get more information as they hand it off to McKenna. She'll hand it off to us, and we'll need to have something of a discussion. And I think they've scheduled another meeting next month. So, Greg.
Mr. Chairman, I would still like to see something kicked into gear to explore getting some congressional support for using federal impact aid to help in that area. So,
Well, what was interesting to me is that we as a tribe don't have anything in place to fight structure fire. Nothing at all. And so we do depend on them. That's interesting. So let's see, with that, Len, you had one for executive. We'll go out of regular into executive. So we'll.
Yeah, and I think
And we cool. Morning, John.
Morning.
It's your turn.
Okay, I have David here, and he's going to present.
Good morning. Yep, thank you for your time. I'm here this morning to request a resolution to apply for a grant. It's a Garrett Lee Smith Tribal Suicide Prevention and Early Intervention Grant. It's to pick up some of the activities that we've had in years past for the Reason to Live Native grant. And it's in the amount up to $735,000 a year for 5 years. And it kind of coincides with several other grants that we have currently for our suicide program. We have a suicide prevention intervention program grant with IHS. We also have a behavioral health to integration grant with IHS. And we applied for last month a zero suicide grant as well. The majority of these funds for this particular grant that we are seeking a resolution would be to offset personnel cost and to fund certain events for suicide prevention activities across the reservation.
Motion by Martin to approve the resolution providing for the submission of the Garrett Lee Smith Tribal Suicide Prevention and Early Intervention Grant. Second by Bing. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, Greg, go ahead.
I'm curious as to what the scope of work is underneath that. And I mean, this is an area that is absolutely critical in terms of the care that our people need. And I'm really happy to see the Tribal Health Department moving forward and securing some funding to do this. But at the same time, given the critical nature of it, I'm really curious as to what the intent of the grant is in terms of services that will be provided.
A lot of it will be for outreach, for activities throughout the reservation. This particular grant is geared towards youth up to the age of 24. We look to create certain events for suicide prevention across the reservation, and bringing in facilitators to speak to youth about suicide prevention. Some of the supplies will be funded under this grant for outreach to youth. We're looking also to provide training to staff on suicide prevention and also offset current employee staffing costs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? We're unanimous. Thank you, David and John.
Yep, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Have a good day. Proctor, come on up. Dr. Fox, good morning.
No.
Good morning, everybody.
morning.
My name is Dr. Jake Proctor. I am the medical division director as of about over a month ago. And today's presentation will be about bringing on pediatrics for our patient population. So I'll try to make it fast. There we go. Perfect. Okay. I'm not sure if I have a controller. There we go. Okay, so here's the proposition. Staff CSKT Tribal Health with Pediatric Care from the University of Utah. I will break down all the domains here. I do think it's a good opportunity though. Why should we consider this? Our community deserves top-notch medical care for our children. Financially, this could be a game changer for tribal health. It's a clear way to progress tribal health from multiple avenues, which I will further discuss.
Dr. Proctor, could you share that with Zoom?
Yes. Let's see.
Well, it's on the main screen, not on Zoom.
Let's see if I can share my screen.
Is it? Oh, man, what happened to me?
Charlotte.
Oh, you are. You got it. I'm
I
there now.
apologize.
Thank you.
So why them? So the University of Utah already has this relationship established with two different 638 tribal healthcare systems. They actually have their own program called TRUE. As a healthcare system, diversification of partnering organizations would be wise. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, who are the two?
There is the Wind River Reservation and then a tribe in Utah. I forgot their name, but they already have established 638 with pediatrics alone. But they already have this precedent set, which is helpful for us.
Is there a critique or review from those tribes on their partnership?
Yes. So the next step would be for me to contact Wyoming to say, what are the pros and cons of this contract? This would be just to open up these conversations with them. It has been successful though, where they've staffed it with full-time pediatrics. They started out as part-time, but now it's full-time with both tribes. So
Will you contact both Shoshone tribes and ask them?
yes, I will.
Okay.
Yeah. So another one with sorry, let me go back a little bit. So this gives us academic level pediatric care and this introduction to the larger University of Utah healthcare system. This is just helpful for referrals. This opens up a lot of patient avenues that we currently don't have. The tribe in Wyoming asked if they could be supplied with a rheumatologist. So this program was successful with pediatrics. So the tribe asked if Utah could supply them with a rheumatologist, which was needed, and they made it happen. So this opens up a realm of a larger healthcare system. And they have a dedicated what's called TRUE program, which would be tribal, rural, and medically underserved. So this is just the Utah perspective.
Go ahead, Greg.
Is this a level of care, pediatric care, that is not available anywhere in Montana?
So arguably, yes, because it's associated with an academic healthcare center, which has a plethora of specialties that Montana just simply does not have. So in a way, yes, but I would quantify that as we would have 80% of what's needed in Montana, the other 20%, sadly, Utah or Seattle. So, but it does open up some avenues.
So, just to register my concern in that area, that we have a dependency on healthcare, especially with this level of healthcare, pediatrics, on a health system that we don't have. It's not a part of our staff, right? So we need to go out and we need to procure those services. So when we take a look then at the impact that we have on the healthcare delivery system that we depend on and that we fuel to a great degree, it makes sense that we form some strategies so that the level of care that we need is available here, if we can possibly, create that. I have nothing against going out of state, and we will always have to do that for certain types of care with burn centers or whatever. But to the degree that we can, and pediatrics might be one of those areas that we can build something locally. So reaching out and bringing in those services is good, but I would like to see us use that in such a fashion that we can build those services here locally.
For sure, and that would be the long-term plan, honestly. So this is a precedent that has already been set where we've struggled to recruit homegrown pediatricians. This would be an avenue that we could hit the ground running, provide that care in the interim, and that actually be the long-term strategy. This would be staffing of the pediatrician, but we would do everything else. So it's just helpful to have a contact into those organizations, just like we would do for any system, Providence, Logan Health. It's just a touch base. But I do agree that is the long-term trajectory.
Go ahead, Martin.
Is there any urgency to getting this done? And I guess to that point, have you had this go through any legal review at all?
So I sent it to the contract individuals, and I would say yes, if that's my understanding.
It did go through legal review for this particular contract. They still have it, I believe, unless it came back yesterday.
It did come back yesterday.
It did not, or it did?
It did.
Oh, okay. It did come back yesterday, so it has been reviewed by legal.
So in the sense of urgency, it's just to provide care quicker, but it depends on how you view that. So
Just, if I may, I don't know if it's just a formatting issue from when we converted a PDF, but just go through it again, and there's some spaces that don't need to be there. In a couple paragraphs I noticed. So just maybe the original, go back through it with the.
yes, sir. See if I can go forward in my PowerPoint. Okay, there we go. So cost comparisons. So how much would this cost? The contract specifies that each shift, which would be a 10-hour shift, would cost $1,650. That would be a little bit higher cost than what I would want. But in addition, they would ask for $500 per month travel stipend per provider. That's another one. That wouldn't be too bad of a cost. Nursing per day is roughly around $400. Office staff per day, roughly $300. So total estimated daily cost is around $2,500 for one shift. So how much would we make from this though? What would be the profit margins? That would be around $10,000 to $13,000 per day. And here is my justification for that. So per the data I have, roughly in our healthcare system, we sit around a 50% Medicaid enrollment for our patients. Theoretically, this is higher in every pediatric population. So especially with our tribe, this should go higher than 50%, but I cannot dictate those numbers. I've tried. Right now, reimbursement is $826 per qualifying visit for Medicaid, and nearly every pediatric appointment would qualify on this. Based on this, we would need to see roughly 3 patients, so 3 Medicaid patients, to break even per day. At a 50% enrollment rate for Medicaid, that makes it a total of 6 patients to break even. So typically a pediatrician can see anywhere from 15 to 20 patients per day. And this just with Medicaid alone, not including third-party insurances, we would average around $10,000 to $13,000 a day, even accounting for a 20% no-show rate. So that's 1 in 5 patients not showing up, and that's still the revenue. So what are the pros and cons? Pros, patient care. We provide pediatric care that we don't have currently. Revenue. Many of our nurses have expressed profound interest in working with pediatrics. So that is helpful for us to maintain the people that are homegrown. So they want to work with a pediatrician. And better marketing to the community. I've had a lot of patients say that they wish they had pediatric care, and that's what we'll try to provide. So what are the cons? It is a totally different system, which is unfortunate. So what happens if there's an HR issue? There's a lot of issues that arise with these differing systems. We give a lot of leverage to the placement decision. They say we have opened up our applicant pool because if we partner with them, they would have roughly 30 pediatricians that are say, hey, are you interested in going into Montana? That is more than we currently have, but nonetheless, we're giving up that leverage, which is a con. Outside versus in-house mentality.
I didn't quite track the placement decision that we're talking about. You're talking about the placement of staff here?
The pediatrician itself.
Okay.
Yep.
So what happens in terms of the referral patterns and looking at it from a continuum of care standpoint? I'm a little concerned that we don't have a situation here where we have a regional center that is trying to establish an outpost in order to corral referral patterns. So,
yeah, that is a great question. So in this regard, so from a legal standpoint, me as a provider, so I'm a physician, if I give you options of referrals, I actually am obligated to do what you say. So it is not something where if we recruit someone from Utah, that we are then into their system. It is up to the patient. However, this does open up doors for subspecialty in that regard, but the goal would be to keep as much locally as possible. And that's what most patients want anyway. So if there needs to be a referral for a pediatric patient, most of the time it would go to Logan Health for pediatric hospital care, but this is only talking about pediatric outpatient, and we get that revenue from them and to provide the actual service here.
so when they need inpatient care, what happens?
That would go to the children's hospitals locally. So that would either be Missoula or Logan Health. So this is not hospital care. This is just simply outpatient clinical pediatrics.
So my concern is that we not fragment that continuum of care by having one setup here and then patient gets switched over to a different setup, as opposed to having one flow all the way through from outpatient to inpatient.
Yeah.
So we have been in contact with local hospitals about our gaps in specialty care, including pediatric care. And at this time, they're not able to provide this particular service for that continuum of care. So using Logan Health as an example, they're not able to send us a pediatric outpatient. So if they then need to go to the hospital, they're being followed by the same provider. That's just not possible right now. So it's already fragmented. They're already going to different pediatric care providers, say in Missoula, and then when they go to the hospital, they go to the ER, and then they end up getting bounced to whatever children's hospital is available to them. So the care is already fragmented. What we would be able to do is provide that continuity for their outpatient care and continue to leverage our ongoing relationships that we have with local hospitals, Providence, Logan Health, to provide that continuity, at least between our relationships.
So the pediatricians that would be coming in through the Utah agreement would not have admitting privileges to any of the local facilities?
No. But they would be, technically, they would be employees of tribal health. So they would be representing tribal health in that regard.
So what happens next? The pediatric administration team would come for a site visit. I orchestrate staffing and prepare the Mission or Ronan clinic. It kind of depends on X-ray capability, honestly. To hit the ground running, we push a marketing campaign to the community and primarily the schools. And the most important detail is establishing a proper coding, revenue, and registration cycle for our system, especially for that Medicaid enrollment. And I will bridge that gap with the Tribal Health Business Division before we ever start.
Yeah, it seems like this is the best fit for Ronan, but I didn't know that there was an X-ray.
Yeah, we do not have X-ray capability in the Ronan clinic.
And what is it gonna take us to get that done?
Sadly, there is a lot of coding things with that because you have to have certain radiograph. It basically boils down to physics, and it is a lot of money. I was not involved with the building of the Ronan clinic. I thought that there was an original plan to have it.
Yeah.
And I guess the changes, I wasn't here.
I
for
thought
that.
it was put back in once we did the local,
And I've personally looked at the Ronan clinic to say, how do we even get this? And there's really only one room that we would it would be the most cost efficient way, even though that's not my specialty. I'm just a physician, but there would be one end room that could be converted for not a ton of money, but nonetheless, it's a project. So that's another reason why Mission Clinic, we do have X-ray capability. It depends on what the pediatrician would prefer. So.
yeah, I just trying to think of the population and making people travel. The bulk of the population would be better served was in Ronan, in a facility that was designed for women and children and the assets that are there. I think we just need to make it happen. Crazy. I thought when we did the funding from package that we put on to bring back the missing elements, that was part of it. The tax increment funding.
Are you referring to the new markets tax credit
Yes,
and the
yes,
enhancement
yes.
there?
Do we have an idea how much it is?
I don't. I could find out that information. I could do some digging.
No, I know it would take for us to do this right in the right facility.
For sure.
Okay.
But any other questions? I'm an open book. So.
The questions?
Helps.
Greg, then Tom?
Yeah, and just a comment. So I'm a great grandparent, and I'm about to become a great grandparent again sometime here in the next couple of weeks. So pediatric care is absolutely critical to me. But as a great grandparent, talking about the pros and cons that you have there and looking at the business decisions that's all around that, I don't care. What I care about is the quality of care that my great grandkids are going to have available to them as they grow up. So I haven't heard much discussion about that this morning. It's comforting to know that you are looking at the numbers and looking at the business side of this, but the absence of talking about the quality of care, continuum of care, and the overall need here that represents to our kids would be very reassuring to me, both as a great grandparent and as a person that is responsible for making decisions about our healthcare here. So
I do apologize for that. I want you all to know my heart is patient care first. I am a thoroughbred clinician. I do not claim to be an administrator, even though at this point I am. I care about patient care. So,
And I did not mean to suggest otherwise, just that the focus seemed to be on the numbers, which is good. But, you know, we need to know those too, but it's kind of the absence of the care issues that concern me. So,
thank you.
Other questions? Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a great idea. I like it all. I care about both things. I like that you talked about revenue and generate, you know, this could be very beneficial to us. And as a grandparent, I'm concerned about, you know, the best choices, the best healthcare we can get for our population. And I'm glad that Greg brought up the thing. This isn't just University of Utah setting up an outpost and then they're going to refer all their patients to their university hospital. That's good, even though it's a good facility. And I think it's a really good program down there. I did the research on it and it looks like it's a good partnership. So I appreciate the consideration. I'd make the motion to approve.
Motion by Tom to approve the external memorandum of agreement, and second by Greg, the agreement with University Academic Medical Salt Lake City. All in favor? We're unanimous.
I'm sorry, say what?
Near the Huntsman Hospital?
Huntsman?
Yeah, that's the cancer hospital in Salt Lake City.
Oh, I'm assuming that some of the referrals would go there. It just depends on each and every situation of the type of cancer. Referrals get complicated pretty quick, but yeah, I would say that this is also helpful. I would love to bring on as many services as we can for the sake of the community we serve. So this is one logical step because we don't have pediatrics. So why not?
We got one comment.
Yeah, Dr. Fox and Dr. Proctor, I want to make sure that this is put in the right spot. So I think there's no doubt in my mind this needs to be facilitated in Ronan because that's the purpose of this building. And that we would make sure that all the assets or for them to function were in that building. So if we're missing X-ray, we need to get it in there. We need to figure out how to do that.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Proctor.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Fox. Have a good morning.
Chair? Thank you.
If
I think they would need it on a daily basis.
Mike,
Carol,
I got a call from my granddaughter. She's, they're looking for Liz. Of course, we know that, but she left a goodbye note. And so the family's been out searching for her all night long. And so I called Louis and he said, the daughter's coming in to meet with him and bring a picture in. And then they're gonna possibly get search and rescue started to have people drive around and look for her. So I hope staff that have vehicles are allowed to participate in that.
thank you, Carol.
so Carol, that is, I don't want to say our Liz, but in charge of our elderly centers or senior centers.
Yeah.
Wow. And who's working on it over there?
Louis Fiddler.
Okay, I got a text from her at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Working out the keys for our district meeting down there. I'm just wondering if I shouldn't let him know that.
Yeah.
I say Michelle talked with her at 5 o'clock yesterday, so she's also over there since she's her supervisor.
Jen, what do we got? Morning, Sadie.
Good morning. So I came to bring two scientific collection permits for approval. Do you want me to present both of them to you, or would you like to do one at a time, or what would you prefer?
Let's go ahead and do one at a time.
Okay. So the first one that I have is a scientific collection permit from Andrea Pipp. They're working out of the Montana Natural Heritage Program. It's out of the Montana State Library. So we've been working on, oh, I started backwards. Sorry about that. I could go down or. So we've been working on better streamlining these collection permits. So that way, because before there was a little bit of confusion on how the permits would go and who they were supposed to go through. Now we're kind of in a better place where we have it streamlined where they send a letter of interest to someone at the tribe and then it goes through Matea Grant at tribal lands. They have a committee that votes on the project, whether they approve it. So both of these permits were approved by Tribal Lands and Matea Grants program, and then they're passed to me where I present them to you for the final approval, whether they can move forward with their permits. So Andrea Pip is working on a plant survey. It's a 2 to 4 hour upland and wetland plant identification project, and it will help identify and prevention of invasive species spreading. She said it would only be 2 to 4 hours for one day for this permit. Is there, it would be, the request is just a general survey of upland and wetland plants for native and non-native. So it's just a general survey for native and non-native species plants.
Any questions about this permit? Motion by Martin to approve the permit. Second by Greg, all in favor? We're unanimous.
Okay, thank you. And then the second one is Omateo Idris. He is out of the Department of Ecology. And this is also another plant survey that they're requesting to do. This one is looking at some perennial flowers. And so they're out of the Department of Ecology, out of MSU Bozeman. And they actually have multiple locations that they're going to be surveying. There's going to be at least 20 in Western Montana, and I believe that there's only going to be 1 or 2 that they're going to be conducting on the reservation.
Questions about this permit? Motion by Martin, second by Carol. All in favor? We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Carrie, come on up. Good morning.
That's correct. Yep. There's a couple identified spots up there. And then historically, I believe there was a patch on the Bison Range, but we haven't detected, yeah, like back in the day, I think. But we haven't seen any active sites currently out there. So, well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chairman and Council. Thank you for having us here this morning. I would like to just take a brief minute and introduce Emily Roche. She is one of our biologists and has been conducting a lot of the aerial survey flights for the Little Money Bighorn sheep, and is also doing some ground survey work up in the Hog Heaven looking at that bighorn sheep population. And she will also be conducting a lot of our big game depredation conflicts working with landowners this year as well. So I'm happy to introduce her to you guys.
It's good to meet you all. Thank you.
Welcome.
So this morning we are bringing the proposed harvest quotas for the bighorn sheep Little Money draw, as well as the Ferry Basin bull elk draw this fall. So on page 25 of your packet, we have just sort of a summary of our survey from this year, what the numbers were, what our target kind of ratios are looking like, and then kind of that page 26, a kind of long-term historical population trend for everybody to see. And so this year, we had a pretty standard flight. We did see quite a few more animals, bighorn sheep this year in that Paradise Little Money herd, almost about 100, 150 more than we had detected last year and the year prior. So, you know, we are going to both the state and the tribes are proposing to keep our tag limits the same for ram and ewe for this year, because we want to see and make sure that that increased population trend maintains into next year. We did have a couple of things, the big wildfire over in that area that could have you know, caused the animals this spring to see the green up and come from farther areas. So it may be a temporarily inflated increase of population. So we want to monitor that into next year. If we continue to see high numbers next year, we'll probably look at increasing at least the ewe, if not some of the ram tags for next year. But for this year, just because it's unknown where these extra animals came from and how long they'll stay, we want to make sure that that it is a true increase long-term in the population and not just a temporary bump. And so for the ewes, or for the sheep, the bighorn sheep, our proposal is to have the 6 ram and 3 ewes for CSKT members. And then the state off-reservation harvest tags would be 6 either sex, which is technically their ram tags, or as well as 2 ewe ram tags, or ewe tags. And so part of, oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad you mentioned the fires. I had one question because we were talking earlier, and I might have mentioned this in one of our car drives. Do you have any documentation about sheep getting hit by the train on the reservation or in that area that would be reflective of that population?
We don't have any reports of sheep being hit. We do on the highway. We work pretty closely with the wardens and MDT if there's a bighorn sheep hit on the highway over there. We don't get a report from the railroad folks unless it's a bear. If it's a bear, then they call us. We make sure it's not a grizzly bear. But yeah, we don't get usually ungulate reports.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they won't report. And that side of the pictograph side there where the railroad track crosses down there by closer to the boundary, nobody goes over there. So there's really very little traffic to see if there, you know, a small population got wiped out by the train or not.
Carol?
How do you monitor them, by helicopter or just scope?
For that population, the Little Money, we do an annual flight if you get a helicopter, and that generally occurs mid-April. And so we do that in coordination with FWP. We have both a tribal and state biologist in the plane, and then every year we alternate the cost of that flight as well.
And do you do the big draw too? Isn't there some up in the big draw?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we don't have aerial surveys conducted on that population right now, but I've been going out and doing ground surveys and talking with the state biologists as well and kind of trying to standardize our procedure for that. So I'm working on getting a minimum count right now and also maybe lamb survival in that area to see how stable that population is.
Okay, I know they find a lot of dead. I don't know. I know a guy that found them and reported them, but yeah, what an awesome job. You're lucky.
Go ahead, Len.
Carrie, just out of curiosity, what is the carrying capacity for the perma area?
So the kind of carrying capacity is at about 300 animals. They try to keep it around 320 within a margin of 10%. So animals ranging from, oh, I can't remember, it was like it was into like 290s up into the almost 360 is kind of the sweet spot of the population target. And so looking back at our previous counts, on page 26, we've generally been hovering around that 250 to 320 mark. So we've been kind of on track for where we want our RAM to U ratios, and then our LAM to U ratios have all indicated a pretty stable, slightly increasing population. And so last year, I think we had a lower count just because we flew later in the season. But the year prior to that, we were sitting at just above 300 animals. And so having almost 500 animals this year is not kind of in line with the trend that we had seen. So we don't know if the burns just opened it up more visibly so we can see them better, or if it drew some neighboring herds in because it was, you know, a nice green up this spring.
So you mentioned that you're proposing that we do 6 ram tags and 3 ewes. How did you come up with those numbers?
So those numbers come out of a kind of plan that so this herd is kind of co-managed between us and the state. And so the total kind of harvest between state and tribal hunters are set in a manner so that we don't kind of exceed a threshold to start negatively hurting the population overall. Since we do have hunting off the reservation and on reservation, the herd kind of mingles around, you know, it's a transboundary herd. And so, you know, one of the things that we use is we have kind of a protocol or a calculation kind of set out that helps us determine, okay, how many ewes do we generally want in a population to keep it between that, you know, around that 320 mark. And so, you know, there's a calculation that goes on in the background that we kind of work with them every year after that annual flight that helps us determine what our overall ewe and lamb, you know, numbers could be removing from a population before starting to see some, you know, negative impacts. And then we just make sure to kind of divide up the permits both on and off based on kind of what that overall number would be.
If I could also add, the carrying capacity is a good point. we've been thinking about revisiting that model with the increase of invasive grasses in that area as well, and seeing if maybe we can get a more current estimate for what the carrying capacity would be.
And then for the Ferry Basin elk, bull elk or Ferry Basin management area, we have our bull elk harvest quota, still proposing that to be at 30. You can see our results down at the bottom. Last year, out of the bighorn sheep permits, we issued 6 rams. We had 2 harvests last year, and we had 3 ewes with no harvested ewes. And then with our elk Ferry Basin permits, we issued 30 permits and had 10 of those filled for bull elk. And then a reminder that there is an unlimited number of harvest for cows in the Ferry Basin area, and there isn't a permit required for that. It's just for the bulls.
Right, go ahead.
Did I understand 0 ewes? So the only thing that's being taken are rams?
That's correct. For last year's harvest. So we had 2 of the 6 rams filled, and then we had 0 of the 3 ewes.
So the quota is to take 3 ewes.
My concern here goes to why we're doing this at all. If we're not taking ewes, it's because we're after the horns, right? We're trophy hunting. And I can't support trophy hunting. So from a herd management standpoint or a wildlife management standpoint, I understand the need to manage those and to balance the numbers out. But I need to be, I'm willing to incur the wrath of every bighorn sheep hunter out there to come and educate me. But until they do, I'm opposed to supporting trophy hunting.
Thank you for your comment, Greg. I would say that this is not a unique to bighorn sheep concern that or issue that we have. Even with our whitetail deer, mule deer, elk harvests, we very much see the same thing where we really educate and promote our tribal members to harvest cows and does to help us in some of our high density areas with those species. And, especially with our check station data that we get, it's pretty high proportion of buck harvests. And so really, this is the best mechanism, the permitting system that we have for, especially in Ferry Basin. The reason you see a harvest quota of 30 bulls in Ferry Basin, but an unlimited for cow is because we want to limit the number of bull harvests to focus on cow harvest. But we don't even see that. So it's difficult for sure.
If I could point out too, in previous years, we did have more of those U tags filled. This just seemed like a lower year for Rams as well. The 2 out of the 6 and the 0 out of the 3 Rams, or sorry, U's.
Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The hunting bulls are over there is pretty tough because you see them out there on those ridges. They're standing out there on those ridges. Every time you get over there, they see you coming, they're gone. I mean, the whole herd. Sometimes there's 300-400 in the herd over there, and they're gone. And it's pretty tough to get one of them bulls when they're in a herd like that, and I don't know, last time I got to mine 2 years ago, it was lucky because there was only 2 of them together, and they were away from the herd and I got that one, but still they're just, if they're in that herd, you're not going to get them, bulls. And then, like I say, they're always up on those ridges and you get them down toward behind crosses down there, you're not going to get in there because a lot of that's marked off, fenced off and, where you can't go in there anymore. But, they're out there on those ridges, and like I said, there's no way to get them because they're way out there. And people aren't going to walk way out there to get them and drag them back or whatever, It's pretty tough to get them out there. I can see why you only get 8 or 10 of them a year.
Thank you, Bing. And then just a reminder that, there is an unlimited harvest of bull elk off Ferry Basin. So there is that opportunity for tribal members to harvest bulls outside of Ferry Basin management area.
Motion by Tom to approve the quotas presented. Second by Bing. All in favor? For the sheep and the elk, yeah. All in favor? Got 2, 4, 6, 4, and Greg is opposed. Motion passed. Go ahead, Lynn.
Terry, what is the status of the wolf population on the reservation?
Yeah, I believe Whisper and I were in earlier this year talking about the Colorado wolf possible translocation, and we did kind of a overview of what our wolf populations were then. So we are still sitting, roughly at about the same amount of packs and adults as we were in 2013 when we initiated our wolf management plan and hunting and trapping seasons. And so, we have healthy populations of wolves. We have a healthy number of packs, and relatively for the region, we have relatively low conflict numbers with them. We work pretty closely with wildlife services, and they respond to a lot of the wolf conflicts or depredations both on and off reservation. And they've notoriously said that the number of calls that they get on wolf conflicts is a lot lower on the reservation than in the surrounding areas.
Terry, has our staff collared any of these wolves?
It's difficult to keep them collared. We've probably put 4 or 5 collars out in the last 3 years, and they either get shot off the reservation or they end up in Idaho. Right now, we've got a wolf that went to Idaho, and then another one that just dropped a collar in Idaho over the winter. So They do some mileage, or they get some mileage, do a lot of dispersal. But our goal is to, so each winter we have like we do some kind of trapping lines to try to get research collars out. And the goal is to have one collar in each pack so that we can monitor movement, distribution, and then, you know, if there are conflicts involved, we can look at where certain packs were to see and confirm whether it was or wasn't a wolf pack. But I mean, unfortunately, we get a collar in a pack, and then in 3 months, that animal's gone, and you're trying to recollar in the same pack. So we're working towards it. We'll
Okay,
get
have
there.
any wolves been observed in Berry Basin yet?
I think we've had some incidental observations from hunters, but we haven't documented them over there. We have had grizzly bears documented this spring by our biologists over in the Ferry Basin area.
I was just speaking to some landowners this morning who said that they could observe some wolves over in Ferry Basin. But again, that's from, yeah, the public and not from us either, but.
Then go ahead.
Just changing the subject on the wolves. There's a lady right across the highway from me. I think a couple of days ago had a mountain lion right on her porch, you know, over there, you know, and she turned around and she had a rubber bullet. She shot it with, you know, and it was killing her cat, what it was trying to do. And when she shot it, it had a cat in its mouth, you know, and dropped it and took off. But we have up there right around housing up there, and it's, I think I believe it's caused from the logging right across the creek there and across the tracks there from her house, because they're logging up there and they're moving the animals around up there, you know, and I believe that's what's bringing them over across the highway there, because getting into area where they're not being bothered, you know, so they're crossing up there. Quite a few bears and whatnot over there around the area too. So anyway, she called a game warden the other day. The game warden never showed up, but I know she was pretty worried about that mountain lion.
Yeah, that's definitely the behavior where we don't want them to get to that point where they start displaying that behavior. There is a 24/7 conflict call line, that number that we've been giving out to folks. You know, we tell folks to either call tribal dispatch to get a hold of the wardens, or there is a conflict call line that there's an option for folks to report exactly those types of things, and it goes to our biologists and the game wardens. That sort of increases someone's, you know, odds of reaching who they need to.
She said she did call, but nobody showed up.
Yeah, that's depending on who she called. Yeah, that's the tough part, is they get a lot of calls. Right now they're inundated with bear calls.
Any other questions? Greg?
Just one comment. My opposition to the previous motion had nothing to do with the elk quota. It had to do simply with the bighorn sheep quota. And my opposition is out of respect for the sheep.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Welcome, Emily.
Can we have a quick break and go and do executive?
We will go out of regular into executive and we will take a break.